Every government has its Secret Service branch. America, it's CIA, France, Deuxième Bureau, England, MI5. My messy job? Well, that's when they usually call on me or someone like me. Oh, yes. My name is Drake. John Drake.
The concept of telling a story in a televised series was an interesting opportunity to create short stories that could be seen by anyone in their home. You didn't have to go to a cinema to watch a film or go to a theater to watch a play. You just sit there in your home and suddenly you start to watch a show different from the concepts that we are used to see. The concept of a TV series evolved through time, and today it became like a short version of cinema. But in the 1950s and 60s, it was much shorter, much different. Even though the concept evolved from the idea of film serials, with limited budget and innovative ideas, the television gave some of the amazing stories for the person to watch from its own couch, and founded the concepts of a TV series. Watching an old TV series today is quite a unique experience. It is interesting to see how a show was made 60 years ago. However, it is quite hard to watch a show like that because sometimes it may be very hard to find it. Still, there are shows out there that you can discover them and enjoy them even today. And the series that I'm gonna talk about in this video is one of those series that I enjoyed watching, even if it was a bit hard to find. Since I watched The Prisoner, the 1967 series starring Patrick McGoohan, I started to read more about the show, and I found out that many people talk also about Danger Man, a 1960 television series starring the same Patrick McGoohan. And they talked about similarities and possible connections between Danger Man and The Prisoner. But about that a little bit later. However, considering myself a rookie in the world of cinema, I really wanted to watch the TV series to see how it was made and what I can really learn from an old TV show. So starting from the synopsis, the series follows the adventures of John Drake, a special and trained person, a spy if we may call him like this, that works for NATO and who solves different situations through unique ways without violence and guns. Technically, we can call this TV series a spy series, but the way the character acts through situations could also be considered a detective series. The line is a bit blurry there. I think you can say that the series could be both styles. The situations differ from one to another, from saving people from dictatorial countries to stopping assassination attempts to solving murders and stopping different types of contraband. The series blurs the line even further because it combines those elements in an interesting and simple way that can make John Drake to look like the one-man guy you need to solve a problem like this one. So if I have to say if Danger Man is a spy series or a detective series, in my opinion I can say there is both. Of course, there is more of a spy series because John Drake introduces himself like this, sort of, in the intro, but the detective work that is presented in the story makes him also a dynamic and intriguing detective. The story of the series does not matter too much in a way. There is not a narrative line that the episodes are following. The episodes are just like small standalone adventures which can make the viewing of the show much easier. Now, I am not saying that someone should skip one of the episodes for some reasons, I am saying that the story can be followed pretty easily. And there is something quite interesting regarding this series. The situation does not quite matter, but the character matters a lot, because the actions, the situations that are presented, define John Drake. The context, the mission and other elements define him. You don't need to know too much about him, only the basic information. He is a special agent that works for NATO and solves problems that no one else can solve. So, as I said, you get more information regarding him in the way he solves the problems he is facing than to get a background story. You see how he is reacting, you see how he is facing different obstacles. From time to time there are hints regarding his nationality, but sometimes apparently he's American, sometimes it seems he's Irish. Probably this was intended to confuse the viewer because, well, you know, he's a spy after all. He has to keep his identity covered. But that is just a small tiny piece of information that I don't know that it matters too much now. What matters is the way he is acting during his missions. He creates plans to uncover the truth, sometimes he goes undercover, he plays a role to get more closer to the problem. He analyzes every part of the clue and he does not rush with a conclusion even if the evidence points to a clear outcome. And most importantly, he is solving issues without using a gun, he uses his mind to save the day. I think that there were a few times when John used a gun, but only because it was forced by the situation. But those moments are to save his life or to escape the enemies. When you talk about the perfect type of spy in a story, Almost everyone thinks of James Bond and the way he acts, his personality, his charm. However, John Drake is very different from James Bond. He is calculated, he does not involve himself in romantic situations, he studies the field before engaging the conflict, and he does not rush into battle. Of course, from a cinematographic point of view, John Drake precedes James Bond, but remember that James Bond was initially a novel character created in 1953, so James Bond appeared in the world of fiction before John Drake. It is interesting to see this comparison between those two characters because apparently, Ian Fleming, the author who created James Bond, was involved for a period of time in the development of John Drake. There are some similarities like the charm and the way they introduce themselves, but I can think of them as two faces of the same coin. One of them is like the perfect concept of a hero who is also a Don Juan and an adventurer, while the other one is a man who is using his cleverness. He is a thinker and also the man who can fix every problem, no matter how hard or different that problem can be. I still keep thinking about the style of the series, whether it is a spy series or a detective series. While I watched the show, there was a thing that always came back. From time to time, there is a voiceover present in the voice of John Drake that gives more details to the mission he is in, his ideas, his thoughts. This thing stuck with me. It gave me a good sensation of a film noir. After I had this idea in my mind, I never stopped to think of the series as a noir series. Besides the fact that the use of voiceover gave me the sensation that the entire series might be a journal of John Drake who talks about his mission, his adventures. Come to think of it, the series was released in 1960, so we can say that it was a small influence of the noir genre into the creation of Danger Man. Probably I think of the noir genre also because of the detective work presented in the show, but I have to say also that the style of the image, the way it is filmed, and being a black and white series helps a lot with this concept and idea that it might be a noir series. Probably it is just me or the creators of the show really wanted to create this idea, but I love how one single show can give more feelings regarding different styles of film. This makes the show unique and makes it more memorable for the ones who are watching it. The first series of the show has 39 episodes, which is quite a big number of episodes to be honest. Some of the series made today have overall 39 episodes. However, having an episode to be almost 30 minutes long, I do not see this as a problem because it kinda balances the number of long episodes with the number of short runtime. Each episode is different and it has another subject. For example, in one episode, John Drake has to solve the murder of a man and the only way to catch the criminal is to get help from the only witness, the victim's sister who is blind. In another episode, John has to manipulate a man into getting information regarding drug dealers, so John has to trick his target into numerous situations that could make him to be blackmailed. In another, he has to save a girl who was kidnapped, so John will disguise as her disabled father to make the villains release the girl. Each and every story is different and unique. It is true, at the beginning you may say that each episode has a certain theme, but let's face it, the series has 39 episodes. Of course, some of them will have the same theme, but the context is different and that is what makes the show more engaging. There are many themes from the 1960s regarding political views that can be found in the show stories. Some episodes are focused on missions that are connected with dictatorial countries, like small islands that got their independence and the dictatorial regime started to flourish there. There is an episode that is focused on the people who want to escape from China and some people benefit from this situation. Other episodes are focused on gun smuggling and contraband from one country to another. Some stories are focused on stopping different assassination attempts. In another one, John has to save a baby who is the sole survivor of a royal family from a Middle East country. The variety of missions is quite impressive and keeps the viewer to pay attention to the series because it comes with a fresh idea every single episode. Of course, for the standards of today, it is quite easy to watch all the episodes, let's say, in a few days, and probably you will realize this reuse of ideas from time to time, but if you are watching the episodes as they were aired, like one episode per week, somehow you enter in the mood of the show and you will not realize that instantly. You just may be excited to see John Drake's new mission and wanna see how John is gonna save the day again. From a cinematographic point of view, Danger Man is shot in a way that is specific to the 1960s British cinema. Being a TV series, the show is filmed quite clean. I love the fact that it is filmed in wide shots to give you a bigger perspective of the situation. It is like you are watching a theater play from your living room. There are many moments from which the characters are filmed from up close, but I love the fact that they are not filmed in a way to invade your screen, like they are getting you into your own personal space. The series is filmed quite static, the camera movements are quite smooth and presents a lot of information, but there are moments when there are scenes that are filmed more dynamically, like they are handheld filmed. I love the way the locations are filmed and how the perspective is giving you a sensation of a greater place. Sometimes you may sense that the show is filmed in a studio, but the exterior shots are made quite well, giving you this credibility of the location, whether it is filmed from the outside or not. For a 1960s TV series, Danger Man has a way to make you jump there in the action with the character, which is a great thing. The way it is edited and composed is quite clean and easy to follow from the point of view of the story. It gives you context regarding the mission. You follow John throughout the story to find clues or to create some context in order to catch the culprit, and at the end, the story is ended with John winning and catching the bad guys. As for the soundtrack, you quite feel that it is specific to a 1960s TV show. It is dynamic, it follows the action of the stories and is used to present a certain point to the viewer, like it is telling the viewer to pay attention to a certain character because he is the bad guy, or creates a moment of suspense to make a dramatic impact. The rhythm of the series is not given also by the way the series is edited, it is also empowered by the music, like it is trying to make you jump from the couch and fight alongside John Drake. As for the fights, because I touched this subject also, the fight scenes are quite short, quite on point and are credible. The fight scenes do not present something complicated, they may not be flamboyant, but they are credible. How is that saying? Less is more? Kinda like that I can summarize the fight scenes. Very little content, a short battle but a credible one and quite intense. Overall, Danger Man is made in a way to present a short story every single week with an incredible spy, so it makes sense to create a dynamic and intense story to keep the viewer attached to the series. From my point of view, this purpose of the show was made quite well. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It kept me focused, it did not bore me, it was made quite well. At the beginning of the video I said that on the internet and among the fans there are rumors that Danger Man might be connected in a way with a prisoner, like number 6 is actually John Drake. To be honest, I started to see similarities between those two characters and I have to say that yeah, it might be a possibility. However, I read something that mentioned the fact that Patrick McGoohan said there are two different characters. George Markstein, co-creator of the Prisoner series, hinted that they are one of the same character. Honestly, I think it is at the gratitude of the viewer. If the viewer wants to connect those two characters, there are things out there to connect them. Sure, both of them are using their mind to escape from situations, both of them have a certain charm and act almost in the same way, but I think there are things that may contradict this idea. I have to watch the rest of the series to clearly understand if John Drake is number 6, but for the moment I am not quite sure. John's nationality is a vital point of information because it is presented either as an American or as an Irish, although he may lie, because he's a spy. And if I remember correctly, number 6 quits his espionage agency underneath the British Parliament, hinting that it may be in fact British, but I am not gonna be stuck with those pieces of information. For the moment, to me, they are two different characters that act in the same way. Maybe in my mind they are one and the same person, but as far as the first series of Danger Man, I cannot clearly express my thoughts regarding this. I was quite impressed by the first series of Danger Man. Patrick McGoohan did a great job to present an interesting and dynamic character such as John Drake. I love the fact that in many different ways the series presents many concepts and ideas that different film franchises have borrowed along the years. For a fan of cinema who wants to discover the past stories and who is familiar with some British actors from that period, it will be nice to see for a few moments actors like Donald Pleasence, who later is gonna portray the infamous Bond villain Ernst Blofeld, and Patrick Troughton, who in just a few years will become the second man who is gonna portray the Doctor, one of the most interesting characters in the entire sci-fi genre. Danger Man is a series that I enjoyed watching. Even though it had many episodes, it was quite simple to watch through it. It kept me close, the story is not that complicated to follow. It is a good series for a person who wants to watch something and get relaxed for a short period of time. I cannot wait to watch the second series and see how John Drake is gonna evolve. For the moment, the series as it is quite perfect. Thanks to the historical period it was made, the themes that it presents and the style it is used for the story, Danger Man might be considered a good series to rewatch for the people who are a fan of the spy genre. And even if the series is not to your taste for some reasons, who knows, give it a try and see how it is. Maybe you will start to like it and want to see more of John Drake's dynamic adventures.